Patricia Gibson.
Madam Chair, I rise to speak in support of new clause 14 and new clause 15, because the need for improved transparency over UK public finances is urgent and the case is compelling. And that is why I was keen to speak on these new clauses. And I note the other provisions dealing with tax avoidance that have been put forward and about which much has been said today. There has been far too little consultation on this bill with stakeholders, but what we do know is that we desperately need greater transparency over the UK's public finances. I am deeply disappointed that Amendment 24 has not been selected as the particular issues of transparency around those companies that deliver public buildings at public expense, particularly those engaged in PPP projects, need to be more open. Now, there would have been cross-party support for this amendment, but the SNP were not asked to support it, which is a shame. PPP projects needed to be transparent and more accountable to the public in order to protect the public finances. And PPP projects are a perfect demonstration of why this accountability and openness is so essential. So I have concerns, Madam Chair, about what is not contained in this bill. We cannot talk in any context about openness in public finances without talking about PFI, and I believe that there is cross-party support to have that conversation. This was a Tory policy embraced by Labour, and indeed George Monbiot has called the PFI situation a, quote, a racket, a legacy of 13 years of new Labour appeasement, triangulation and false accounting. This scheme was so enthusiastically embraced by the previous Labour administrations, it was like a grand love affair. And Scotland wasn't just the testing ground for this disaster. The first PFI project in Britain was the Skye Bridge project. It has a far higher proportion than anywhere else. Writer Jerry Hassan has pointed out that Scotland has 40% of PFI schools with 8.5% of the population. Why is that? Could it be that, like the poll tax, Scotland became the testing ground for the PFI nightmare? It certainly looks that way, although if anybody wants to contradict that, I'm quite happy to hear what they have to say. It is unacceptable, Madam Chair, that PFI companies often inhabit the shadows, and their tax arrangements need to be sufficiently transparent and open so that we can have proper transparency in our public finances, that we can be confident that those being paid very lucrative sums, way over the odds for public buildings, are in turn paying their due in taxes and have their financial arrangements, which are transparent, open to the public, and that's why these new clauses are very important, and that's why they needed to be included in this bill. I will indeed.
Can I thank the honourable member for giving way? Is she aware that in England, PFI schools that were previously under the control of local authorities can be taken away from the local authority, forced to academise, but the debt liability stays on the books of the local authority? Does she believe that's transparent and fair?
It's absolutely not transparent, and it's yet another example of how PFI has been nothing short of a disaster, and it is local authorities, it is our schools and our hospitals that are paying the price. I will indeed.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and she, like myself, is a teacher by profession and has had to deal with a PFI school and working in a PFI school, and often these schools not only have they been developed by these companies that often have questionable tax policies, but they often produce a substandard product that parents, pupils and teachers have to deal with, and local authorities are saddled with that debt for many years to come.
The Honourable Lady makes an excellent point, and I'm just about to go on to talk about not only the crumbling PFI schools that we are now left with and which our local authorities are paying for, of which there is no transparency and accountability of these contracts, but alleged criminality that has taken place around these contracts in my own constituency in North Ayrshire. Before she moves on to the criminality. I would share her frustration with us as well, because when I was a councillor in Labour-run Glasgow City Council, if you wanted to see the contract, you had to go and sit in a room and read the contract. You couldn't even go and take it away. And also, when the council discovered that they'd managed to build IT rooms and home economics rooms without ventilation, it cost the council a fortune to reopen the contracts and get those things put right. The Honourable Lady again points to the lack of accountability and the hosh-posh, the rushed contracts put together by PFI that benefited somebody, but they didn't benefit our local authorities, and they didn't benefit our children, and they don't benefit patients who use hospitals. There is no better example of the need for new clause 14 and new clause 15 than my own constituency of North Ayrshire, which runs North Ayrshire Council. This Labour-run council had a PFI process which was severely flawed and was uncovered by local journalist Campbell Martin. Some have even insisted that criminal activity was involved, since while the council appeared to have 2 bids for construction projects, therefore seeming to provide the genuine competition required by the EU procurement rules, in fact, the evidence suggests that one of these bids was a subsidiary company of the other company submitting a bid. So there was, in fact, no competition at all. The Labour Council was made aware of this before the contracts were awarded, but awarded them regardless. In the opinion of one ex-detective, the evidence showed criminality from start to finish. The other former officer stated that a common law crime of forgery and uttering should have been pursued. Right there, Madam Chair, we see the need for more transparency, and I, for one, would like to see more transparency for the tax arrangements of such companies, as this is very much in the interests of the UK public finances. All of this information relates to a PP contract now costing taxpayers over £1 million every month in North Ayrshire. Add to that the schools which are crumbling across cities like Edinburgh, and we have real questions about these PI firms which, for projects of a capital value of £4 billion in Scotland, we will repay £22 billion, with our schools spending 8% of their budgets on paying off these Labour PFI debts. Can we really, Madam Chair, can we really allow any lack of transparency around the tax affairs of such companies and our public finances? So I believe it's absolutely essential that there must be more transparency around how UK public finances finance public sector projects. The tax affairs of these companies and their wider financial affairs need to be open to scrutiny because they build or have built our public assets, and I urge the House to support new clause 14 and 15.